taking the AP Language and Composition test, you're going to need to know exactly what's on the MCQ section. How many questions, how much time, and what's actually being tested. In this video, I'll break down the entire test structure so you know exactly what you're up against. Yes. Hi, I'm Dr. Clay Zuba, inventor of Zubafy. Today, I'm going to explain the complete structure of the multiple choice section on the AP Language and Composition exam. This is the first video in a series that will teach you everything you need to know to master this section of the test. Here's what we're covering: the overall test structure, the 2 types of MCQ questions, the 4 skills being tested, and how to think about time management. This video gives you the foundation. Later videos in this series will teach you exactly how to read passages and answer questions like kings and queens. But first, you need to understand the complete structure, because understanding the MCQ section will fit into the larger test structure and help you understand why these questions matter. So, the AP Language and Compositions exam has 2 major sections: the essay section, which is 55% of your grade, and the multiple choice questions, which are 45% of your grade. Now, based on this information, some students make the mistake of thinking, well, the essays are worth 55%, the MCQs are only worth 45%, I'm just going to focus on preparing for the essays and not really worried about the multiple choice questions very much at all. This is the wrong choice, because the MCQs are still worth a lot. In fact, the MCQs are the difference between a 3 and a 4 and a 4 and a 5 in your final score. They might even be the difference between a 2 and a 3. And doing well in the MCQ question can give you some wiggle room in case one of the essay questions that you're so good at just doesn't go your way as you expected. In the MCQ questions, you're going to read 5 passages total, and each passage has around 8 to 12 questions. Each question gives you 4 possible answers, but only one is correct. Now here's something many students don't know. The MCQ section has 2 sections. One is called the reading section, the other is called the writing section. These 2 sections, even though they look similar, they test 2 completely different skills. Understanding this distinction is going to be crucial to your success. The reading questions ask you to analyze passages for comprehension, structure, style, rhetorical choices, and rhetorical appeals. You're reading like a literary critic or a rhetorical analyst. You're going to answer questions here about what the author is doing and why it works. The reading section will have 2 passages with 23 to 25 questions total. One passage will be what from you would call olden times. That's basically going to mean it's from a long time ago and is going to have style and words that seem archaic and strange to you. The other passage will be contemporary, written in a modern style that's easier for you to read. The writing section is going to ask you to make revision suggestions, as if you're editing a draft. These passages resemble student writing or works in progress, and you'll suggest improvements from the perspective of a writer. You'll be thinking about theses, clarity, organization, evidence, transitions, and tone. The writing section has 3 passages of 20 to 23 questions, divided among them. All the writing passages use contemporary style because they're meant to resemble student writing. Now, this is important to remember. The reading questions ask, what is the author doing? The writing questions ask, how should this draft be improved? Different skills, different mindset. We'll cover strategies for each type in separate videos. But for now, just understand that you're dealing with 2 different sections and 2 different types of questions. No matter which section of the test you're in, reading or writing, the AP Language and Composition tests 4 primary skills. Let me explain these, because understanding what's actually being assessed helps you know what to look for. Skill 1, rhetorical situation. This means understanding the context in which the persuasion happens. Who's the writer? Who's the audience? What's the purpose? What is the occasion or context? Reading and writing questions of this type will ask you to identify how these elements shaped the rhetorical choices made by the writer. Skill 2, claims and evidence. This skill tests your ability to identify the writer's main argument and see how evidence supports that argument. Here, you'll answer questions about claims and evidence and whether the evidence supports the claims. Skill 3, reasoning and organization. This section tests your understanding about how the text is structured and how its ideas connect to each other. Here, you'll answer questions about why a paragraph appears where it does, whether the transitions works, and how the overall organization serves the writer's purpose. Skill 4, style. Questions like these assess your ability to analyze word choices, sentence structure, tone, imagery, figurative language, and other rhetorical choices. You'll identify what stylistically moves the writer and why those choices matter. Every single MCQ question tests one of these skills. When you're practicing, try to identify which skills each question is testing, because this will help you answer the question correctly. Say, that reminds me. Are you finding this video helpful? What? That's amazing. That's why I made it. You should totally drop a like and subscribe right now so that you and others like you can continue to learn from Zubafy. Yes. Let's take a moment to discuss time management. 1 hour for 45 questions might sound like a lot of time, but it'll go by fast. First, we should calculate the time available. 45 questions in 60 minutes means you have about 1 minute and 20 seconds per question, and that will include the reading time. What? Here's what that means in practical terms. You'll spend roughly 8 to 10 minutes a passage, including reading the passage and answering the questions. You cannot afford to spend too much time on the difficult questions. You cannot afford to reread the entire passage each time you read a question. You need to read actively the first time, answer questions decisively, and keep moving. Here's the key to success. You should answer every single question, even if you're guessing. There is no penalty for wrong answers on the AP exam. Your score is based purely on the number of correct questions. So if you're running out of time, you should start choosing answers fast. Never leave anything blank. Now, you'll need to make a strategic choice on test day. Should I start with the reading passages or the writing passages? Should I tackle the archaic language first or the more contemporary passages? I cannot answer this question for you. I'm just an English teacher. It depends on your personality and your strengths. Some students like to do the hardest parts first and complete those earlier on. Others prefer to build their confidence with the easier questions and save the hardest ones for last. We'll discuss strategy as a path in part 6 of this series, but start thinking now about which approach fits your strengths. Now, before we finish, I do need to warn you about something. The AP test knows how you think, and it will try to use that against you. The test writers will deliberately include wrong answers that seem attractive. These are called distractors, and they're designed to exploit common student thinking mistakes. There are 3 main types of distractors. One is the 2-part trap. What? An answer has 2 parts in these types of answers, but only one part is correct. The AP thinks that you'll stop reading when you read just one part of the question and guess that one. Don't do that. Read the entire answer. If one part is wrong, the entire answer is wrong. But students often pick these because they see something true and stop reading. Type 2 is answers that are true but irrelevant. The answer might say something true here about the passage, but it doesn't actually answer the question being asked. Students pick these because they recognize something that they saw in the text, but they forget to check whether it answers the question. Type 3, vague but specific. These answers seem familiar, but one is vague and one is specific. The specific answer is always the correct answer. Students often pick the vaguer answer because it seems safer and more general, but the AP rewards precision. The key to defeating the distractors? Process of elimination. In video 3, I'll teach you a complete process of elimination. But for now, just know that you should eliminate wrong answers until you're left with the right answer, which is actually the best answer. Never pick the first answer that sounds good. Always read all 4 options. Eliminate distractors and choose the most specific answer that directly answers the question. All right, now let's review what you know. The AP Language MCQ section is 45% of your total score. You have 1 hour for 45 questions across 5 passages. The section is divided into reading and writing sections. Every question tests 1 of 4 skills: rhetorical situation, claims and evidence, reasoning and organization, or style. And the AP will use distractors to trick you because they're mean, but you're going to defeat them because you've watched Zubafy and understand how to use the process of elimination. Yes. Now you understand what you're going to be up against. No more mystery, no more panic. In video 2, I'll teach you how to read AP Lang passages actively so you can answer the questions efficiently. In video 3, we'll walk through the complete process of elimination method with real examples. Remember, drop a comment telling me what part of the MCQ section makes you the most nervous, and I'll make sure to address it in my upcoming videos. Thanks for watching Zubafy. Remember, come back for more Zubafy.